Chef Mortimer Proulx, and I'm the executive chef at the Sheraton Ottawa Hotel in downtown Ottawa. I was an Algonquin culinary management grad back in, I want to say 2005. That sounds about right, 2005. So I've been going at this for a little while. My experience ranges from franchise restaurants back when I was a teenager, kind of getting into it, to golf courses as I was going through my time at Algonquin. When I graduated, I ended up at Brook Street Hotel for 6 years out in Canada, where it was really sort of pretty brand new. You know, I think I joined at about year 2 of the hotel's existence, so we were still flying pretty high with, 9-course tasting menus and some pretty sort of high-end stuff. And then I made the switch to Zen Kitchen, 34-seat vegan, sort of, I'm not going to say fine dining, but full service dining restaurant, definitely one of Ottawa's first. After that, I opened Lower Town Brewery in the market for something a little more casual with about 400 seats during the summer. And then I opened a couple restaurants in Elmer that were pretty critically successful, but maybe not so financially successful. So after running those, La Maison Conroy and Le Masson Pub for about a year and a half, we decided to close the doors on that one just to kind of keep ourselves financially solvent. And then, so anyways, now I find myself at the Sheraton. So I've got a pretty good variety of experience, I suppose, when it comes to maybe not giving advice, but giving a little bit of insight to some of the students that you have in your class right now. It's been pretty interesting seeing what's been happening the last 8 months. As I do have a lot of contacts and peers and friends that are small restaurant owners or hired executive chefs or work in long-term care, work in the hotel industry. That's pretty much what my news feed is on any sort of social media, right? So it's been interesting to see how it's been impacting people, both in Ottawa as well as some people outside of Ottawa that may not get as affected by the lockdowns, like in Lanark County and stuff like that. I've also got friends in other provinces, right? So it's been really interesting. I think that obviously one of the biggest hurdles that we've had to deal with is sort of the fluctuation from color range to color range when it comes to what the Ontario government is preaching for lockdowns, and sort of what they're allowing us to do, whether it's closing early or allowing outside liquor sales, which has been really interesting from the AGCO, or whether it's allowing indoor dining, whether it's only allowing outdoor dining, takeout, delivery, what have you, right? But in terms of what I've been seeing some restaurant owners and some chefs do, it's been pretty interesting. I think it's been a lot more flexible for small restaurants than it has been for larger institutions like different hotels, like conference centers like the Shaw Center or the NAC or something like that. But really what I've been seeing is the more creative you are, a little bit the better off you are, because it generally has allowed people to pivot or adjust pretty quickly. Some of the better things that I've obviously seen are the smaller restaurants that started off right away offering curbside pickup or delivery. Harriet Clooney at Das Local, for instance, actually helped kick something off called Love Local Delivery, where when she was seeing a lot of the restaurants get cannibalized a little bit by like Uber Eats and DoorDash, they're taking 25-30% off of the order. What she ended up helping create was Love Local Delivery, which there were different sections for the different neighborhoods of downtown Ottawa, but for a $5 flat fee, they would get a company to deliver within 5 kilometers of their restaurant. So it didn't mean that you could necessarily order, something from Westboro if you're in Vanier, probably. But what it does mean is that a lot of your local shops were still able to get their food to you without having to lose 25-30% right off the bat. So that was pretty interesting to see. Some of the larger spots, I think the NAC did a really cool job when they were doing, I think they did 3 or 4 concerts where the musicians were playing on the canal, and then they were able to use one Elgin's patio to still do a 3-course dinner and have their guests have the entertainment that they wouldn't normally. I believe that the music side came from probably Mark Monahan from Blues Fest and Jazz Fest and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken. But that was pretty ingenious. Kenton's a really smart guy, and he's definitely been around. So him and Connor did a great job with that. And Nelson, obviously being the F&B director, I mean, he's got a wealth of experience, and they're obviously very creative people that were willing to flex a little bit. I mentioned the AGCO and Ontario government allowing restaurants or any licensee, I guess, to sell alcohol. That was a huge one, right? I think that has helped keep a lot of restaurants afloat. Myself as a consumer, I have definitely taken to purchasing any and all of my alcohol from a lot of the local restaurants or markets. For me, I live sort of lower town area, so I go to La Bodega and the Byward Wine Market, which is located inside of Lolo, 2 hours down from La Bodega. And the reason that I like the ability to do this is because licensees have access to listed spirits and wines that you can't necessarily pick up at the LCBO itself. So as a consumer, you're able to go and grab stuff that you would normally get at a lot of these nicer restaurants, but you wouldn't be able to go and pick up the bottle at the LCBO. Even the King Edward and Rideau one, for instance, which is my local, which is probably one of the bigger ones in town, and it has vintages, but there's so much better stuff that you can get at all these other shops. And a lot of them have been smart, and they're not marking them up as you would on a restaurant menu, right? You're not marking them up 200% because you're not providing the service. So instead, it's more of like a flat increase across a lot of these bottles, right? So you're getting wicked bottles of wine for $40 as opposed to $100 at a restaurant, right? So to add that onto a takeout meal that you're buying, it's pretty fun, I think. And then as someone that likes making cocktails and stuff like that, I'm able to, buy great bottles of spirits that, again, you can't normally get at the LCBO. So I think that's been really interesting. It was a good thing that the government did that. I think that is something that we'll see stick around. I know that they had originally said that it was going to happen until December 31st, the end of this year. And now they've extended that indefinitely, I believe. So they're going to keep it around. There is a next step to that I think you're going to start seeing small restaurant owners specifically push, which is the fact that they should be getting wholesale pricing as opposed to having to pay the listed price at the LCBO, because that's what licensees have to do, right? I think that a lot of consumers think that, if you're paying for a marked up drink at a restaurant, that the restaurant is making just so much money because surely the cost of it is less than what they can get it for at the LCBO, but that's not true. Some items they even have to pay more when it comes down to it, right? So I think that's a big one that's going to happen in our industry, and that would definitely help small restaurants a lot more because now they're able to get their alcohol out the door, and then hopefully they'd actually make a little bit of a proper markup on it as well. That being said, I think it's important for any potential chefs and restaurant owners to ensure that they're Smart Serve certified, right? It costs, I think, like $20 to go through your testing, and you can do it online and do a proctored exam, and it's just something that ends up, helping you in the long run. I can't see how that could be something bad, especially if anyone's considering opening a small restaurant or takeout joint or a ghost kitchen or whatever it might be. So that's something that I think might be a worthwhile piece that some of your students might want to look into when they've got a weekend off, that they can watch little videos online and kind of go through that. I know I did that at one point when I was between jobs and thought that it was something that would help benefit me in the long run. But yeah, I mentioned ghost kitchens there, which I think is interesting as well. I think that when you're looking at the future of what our food industry has in store, it's definitely something that is becoming more and more of a common term that people are probably becoming more familiar with, right? A ghost kitchen meaning that they're still in a brick and mortar spot and they're not necessarily changing locations every night or anything like that. But you can't walk in as a consumer, right? You can't walk in and expect to get a table. It's a kitchen that is producing food for an online persona, if you will, an online restaurant that is only available through delivery, through your Uber Eats or your DoorDash or your Skip the Dishes. Hopefully in the future, maybe there'll be some other options that aren't quite as, like I said, carnivorous in terms of how much of your bottom line you're going to take. But if you're building out a space like that, previously say you had a 1,000 square foot vacant spot, well, you're going to probably dedicate 60% percent of that to seating, right? Putting a bar, putting a front door and a hostess stand, and putting a bunch of tables and chairs and banquettes everywhere. And then about 40% is going to go to the back of house for your kitchen and your dish pit and your prep room and your storage areas and your office and everything like that. But now if you're at least that same 1,000 square foot area, that whole thing could be a kitchen if you wanted, right? Or it could be set up kind of like full takeout style. Like I remember going to the local Chinese restaurant when I was a kid, right? And it's like you go in and there's a little bit of an area, like maybe 10% is for your customers to come in. You have your little front desk and your cash register that you can, you know, pick up your food or place an order if you have time to 20 minutes to sit around, but you can do it that way as well, where now it's 10% front of house and 90% back of house, right? So you can sort of set it up in a way that makes sense to your business. The other thing that ghost kitchens are doing is you can be running multiple concepts out of one ghost kitchen. So you can have, you know, maybe 3 or 4 cooks back there, and you've got 3 different online personas. Maybe you've got a taco shop, maybe you've got a burger shop, and maybe you've got a curry shop or something, right? And you're not going to be increasing your labor, but you are going to be increasing your inventory, right? You're going to have to hold some extra products that you might not normally, but then you're looking at cross utilization of products, right? You know, you can have chicken tacos, and you can have buttered chicken, and you can have a grilled chicken burger, right? So this is something that's definitely pretty interesting as well. You know, obviously the tougher part of that is that you won't have the potential or the not sure what word I'm looking for, but I'll say with potential. You won't have the potential of walk-by business, right? You're not going to have people walking by if you're on Elgin Street or if you're on Bank Street or what have you, or if you're in College Square, right, Plaza, and you've got a bunch of students that are on break. Those people can't walk by and then just say, oh, this place looks cool, I'm going to pop in for, you know, a drink and a couple courses. You're now counting more on social media marketing. You're hoping that people are catching on to your brand. So hopefully you're putting a little bit more effort if you can do it yourself, or money if you need to pay someone, into creating your name, your logos, you know, any sort of managing your Instagram and your Facebook and your TikTok and your Twitter and everything, right? It's like those are the things that you need to focus attention into. You're going to be a ghost kitchen, in my opinion, because you need something catchy that people are going to catch on to and they're going to follow you, right? You know, maybe not everyone is going to be thinking small. Maybe they're going to be thinking something a little bit bigger. I think that it's worth mentioning sort of that, you know, long-term care, obviously right now, while it's usually in the news for some of the struggles that they're having, that right now is probably the safest aspect of our industry to get involved in. It might not be the most creative aspect of it, especially as a new cook coming into it. But I think that for those that are looking for, you know, a steady paycheck right now and to keep working on their own skill sets, you know, and maybe getting quicker and, you know, learning how to read recipes a little bit better and stuff like that, I think that's definitely a viable option. And I think that long-term care homes are always looking for workers right now. I think that it's pretty important. I see a lot of posts for some different homes. I think that you have to be pretty respectful if you're going to work in one of those jobs, though. You know, you are working with usually the elderly or those with compromised immune systems, and with being in the middle of a pandemic right now, at least, it's something that you need to be comfortable to be in that environment. Hotels are a little tougher right now, and I say that from personal experience, mainly because not all, but a lot of them have unionized employees, and the kitchens are generally unionized in a lot of them, not all of them. But in those ones, it's tough because if you're not already working there and you don't have seniority, you're really not going to get much in terms of work, right? If you can get hired, then good for you, but it would probably be fairly casual, and you would need to be holding down a second job if you're really looking to, you know, make your rent and make your payments and stuff like that, which obviously everyone is. But it is also worthwhile getting in there if you can, because as we come through this, and people are going to be wanting to travel again. And when they do, and when restrictions are lifted, or if there's a proven vaccine and stuff, our hotel industry is going to go gangbusters pretty quickly, right? So you need to be able to go from 0 to 100 very quickly. And so that's when you'd already be in at the ground level, hopefully, and you would be able to then accept more shifts if it's something that you want, if it's an environment that you like, maybe not fine dining, but full service food, and maybe you're thinking about wine pairings and stuff like that. It's something that I think can still work. It has to go in conjunction with having a good concept, a good location, a good lease, and obviously being able to cook, right? But it can still work. Not everything has to be takeout and delivery, because again, when we're past the hump of this, people want to go out. There have been restaurants for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's not going to go away. Everyone still, or not everyone, but a lot of people still want to go out. They still want to have that connection. They still want to be able to, have their date nights or go and see family. They want to have their celebrations. They want to feel like everything's normal. And I think that restaurants generally have done a very good job in adjusting right now, separating tables, putting, outfitting themselves in PPE, putting plexiglass up or tempered glass in some instances. Maybe it's a bar environment where you're normally able to sit there and converse. There are some places that have tempered glass that is up. These are expenses that you need to consider, obviously, in your business plans, and they certainly weren't really expenses that I was familiar with doing that business plan. But everyone that's in your room and that might be seeing this, they should definitely consider that, because that can add up. So maybe having some resources so that they can get a real world idea of how much that costs would help.